Ever wonder how a humble grain like corn can transform into a mouth-watering cake? Imagine a simple, everyday grain, metamorphosing into a dessert that's nothing short of a culinary delight. A dessert that's not just delicious, but also tells a tale of transformation. A tale from mundane to magical, from ordinary to extraordinary. How does this alchemy happen? How does plain old cornmeal become a cake that tantalizes the taste buds? Curious? Well, stay tuned as we unravel the magic of cornmeal cake. To start the magic, you need the right ingredients. First up is cornmeal, the star of our show, adding a unique texture and a slight nutty flavor to our cake. Next, we've got flour, the backbone that provides structure and holds all our ingredients together. Then sugar, our sweet talker, balancing the cornmeal's natural earthiness. Our rising stars, baking powder, and a pinch of salt work behind the scenes to ensure our cake rises beautifully and has just the right touch of savory to enhance the sweetness. Now, onto the wet ingredients. Eggs, nature's very own binding agent, help everything stick together and add a bit of fluffiness. Milk, our smooth operator, brings moisture and lightness to the batter. Next is butter, our flavor enhancer that adds richness and depth. Last but certainly not least, honey, the sweet song that makes our cornmeal cake sing with a subtle floral note. With these ingredients, you're all set to create a culinary masterpiece. First up, we're going to create our dry mix. Now this is where the magic begins, folks. Imagine a symphony, but instead of instruments, we have cornmeal, flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt. Each of these ingredients plays a unique role, and together they create a harmonious blend that forms the backbone of our cornmeal cake. Let's start with the cornmeal. It's the star of the show, lending a unique texture and flavor that's hard to resist. Now let's add some flour to the mix. Flour is like the reliable friend who's always there for you. It gives our cake structure and ensures it doesn't crumble under pressure. Next we have sugar. Sweet, sweet sugar. It's the melody in our symphony, adding just the right amount of sweetness to our cake. But remember, a good symphony isn't just about the melody, it's about the harmony too. That's where baking powder comes in. It's the conductor of our orchestra, ensuring everything rises to the occasion and hits just the right notes. Finally, we have salt. It might seem like an odd addition to a cake, but salt is like the unsung hero of our symphony. It enhances the flavors of all the other ingredients and makes sure they shine. Mix these ingredients together, ensuring they're evenly distributed. This is crucial, as it guarantees every bite of our cake will be perfectly balanced. Your dry mix is now ready, setting the stage for the next step. Now it's time to introduce some moisture with our wet mix. We've set the stage with our dry ingredients, and now it's time to create the counterpart, the wet mix. We're going to start by beating a couple of eggs. You're looking for a light, frothy texture here, so don't be shy. Give those eggs a good whisk until they're nice and airy. Next, we'll add in some milk. Now, this isn't just any milk. This is the secret to our cake's luscious, moist crumb. Pour it in slowly, continuing to stir as you do. You'll see the mixture begin to transform, becoming a creamy, dreamy concoction that's a delight to the senses. But we're not done yet. It's time for some melted butter to join the party. This is where the flavor really starts to build. Mix it in thoroughly, making sure it's fully incorporated. You'll notice the mixture becoming richer and even more enticing. Finally, we'll sweeten the deal with a drizzle of honey. This golden syrup will give our cake a subtle sweetness that perfectly complements the cornmeal's earthy flavor. Mix it in well, ensuring that it's evenly distributed throughout the mixture. The result? A smooth, creamy wet mix that's ready to meet its match. Pay attention to its consistency. It should be neither too thick nor too thin, but just right, like a well-made batter. Your wet mix should now look smooth and ready to mingle with the dry mix. This is where the magic happens. We're going to combine our mixes and bake. Let's start by making sure our oven is preheating. Set it to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. While that's warming up, we're going to bring together our dry and wet mixtures. Remember, it's all about balance, so don't rush this part. Now take your bowl of dry ingredients and make a well in the center. This is going to be the new home for our wet mixture. Pour it in gently, making sure not to splash any of the dry mix out of the bowl. Once it's all in there, we're going to combine the two. But hold on. Don't just start stirring like there's no tomorrow. We want to treat our mixes with respect. Mix gently, using a folding motion. Imagine the mixture as a delicate fabric that you're folding over and over. This technique helps to keep the texture light and fluffy. Continue to fold until you can't see any more dry ingredients. Here's a tip. Try not to overmix. I know it's tempting to make sure everything is perfectly combined, but overmixing can lead to a dense cake, and we don't want that. We're aiming for a cake that's light and airy, like a summer's day. So when you can't see any more dry ingredients, stop mixing. By now, your oven should be preheated. Pour the mixture into a greased baking dish. Smooth the top with a spatula to make sure it's even. Then, place it in the center of the oven. Set your timer for 25 to 30 minutes. While the cake bakes, the aromas that will fill your kitchen are just out of this world. The sweet scent of cornmeal combined with the tantalizing smell of baking cake is enough to make anyone drool. And now, the waiting game begins. It's a test of patience, but trust us, it's worth it. The anticipation of the first bite of your homemade cornmeal cake is part of the baking experience. So sit back, relax, and let the oven do its thing. It's well done. You've successfully baked a cornmeal cake. Now, let's make sure it's perfectly done before we dig in. To check the cake for doneness, you can use a toothpick or a small knife and insert it into the center of the cake. If it comes out clean or with a few crumbs clinging to it, then congratulations, your cornmeal cake is baked to perfection. Now, patience is key here. Allow your cake to cool in the pan for about 15 to 20 minutes. This will make it easier to remove from the pan without it falling apart, and it will also enhance the flavors as it cools. Once it's cool enough to handle, flip it gently onto a serving plate. Ah, the sweet smell of success, right? Now you could absolutely enjoy this cornmeal cake just as it is, but why not take it up a notch? Consider adding a drizzle of honey over the top. The sweetness of the honey pairs beautifully with the rustic flavor of the cornmeal, or perhaps you'd prefer a scoop of your favorite ice cream on the side. The contrast of the cold, creamy ice cream with the warm cake is simply divine. Fresh berries or a dusting of powdered sugar can also provide a delightful touch. Congratulations, your cornmeal cake is ready to be devoured. Enjoy. So there you have it, a simple yet delicious cornmeal cake. We began our journey with a handful of humble ingredients: cornmeal, flour, baking powder, salt, sugar, butter, eggs, and milk. Each ingredient in its own right is unassuming and commonplace, but when brought together in harmony, they transform into something truly magical. The first step was to carefully combine the dry ingredients: the cornmeal, flour, baking powder, and salt. We whisked them together until they were perfectly blended, creating a solid foundation for our cake. Next, we moved on to the wet mix, where we creamed the butter and sugar together until they were light and fluffy. To this, we added the eggs one by one, followed by a generous pour of milk. This wet mixture added depth and richness to our cake, bringing a moist and tender crumb that's sure to delight. Then came the moment of unity, where the dry met the wet. With a gentle hand, we combined the two mixtures, taking care not to overmix. The resulting batter was thick and luscious, filled with the promise of a delectable treat. With our batter prepared, we transferred it to a baking pan and set it in a preheated oven. As the heat worked its magic, our batter rose and browned, transforming into a golden cornmeal cake that's as beautiful as it is delicious. And then, the final step, the enjoyment of our hard work. A slice of this cornmeal cake is pure joy, with its tender crumb and slightly sweet flavor. It's a testament to the magic that can occur when simple ingredients are combined with a bit of love and patience. In the end, it's not just about the cake, but about the journey of creation. From simple beginnings to a delightful end, it's a journey that's as enjoyable as the final product. Remember, the magic is in your hands. Happy baking, and until next time, keep experimenting and keep enjoying.